listening to Enlivening Musings, a podcast to enhance your life so you live fully alive. Sponsored by the Pleasure Fairy app. Download it for more support. Welcome to Enlivening Musings. I'm Crystal.
And I'm Katie.
And today we are talking about the power of acknowledgement. This is also known as like awareness and tuning into and choosing to actually look at the stuff that is underneath and running the show and maybe wreaking havoc on your life in some way, shape, or form. And how so often it's easier to just kind of brush something off and not necessarily go there. And gratitude for all the people who make the choice to actually do the work, play with it, and look at it and just how it can impact our lives. So basically, this is all the ish, when we're sitting here and we have, it could be anything. It could be pain in our body. It could be being stuck in a victim state and just like hating on the world. It could be whatever it is. And Katie and I were just talking about how wild it is when you get on the other side. Mm-hmm. And so the thing is so many people don't want to look at the stuff because it can hurt. The process isn't always fun. It isn't always easy, and it can feel like garbage. So sometimes people will keep stuff really superficial. And so, like I could be working with somebody and ask a question or give a journal prompt, and the person can keep it right here on the surface. Mm-hmm. And then they don't get better, and things don't resolve, and patterns keep repeating, and you're stuck being like, why? Why isn't this working? Or what is going on? Or that person's tips, tricks, whatever didn't work for me, or therapy didn't work, or whatever. But if you take it to the depths and you take it and you really acknowledge it and be with it, that's when the magic happens. So Miss Katie here has done the work and is one of the people who actually will take a practice and do something with it. And it's not like it's just
right.
It
can be months.
It can be months of like stuff being drudged up. And I think about people when they go and they do like a retreat or they do something and everything's like maybe hunky-dory, and then they get home and then they're like integrating, and then all of a sudden it's like all the stuff is trudged up. And it's like, whoa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you're like, can I just go back to like before I knew that all was like, let's put that back in the box. Yeah. Let's lock that back up. It's amazing when you say this because I am just realizing like this past year has just been so much growth and change for me. And, working with a therapist and continuing to do receive MFR and a mental health therapist and all these things. But I mean, I knew going in, we're going there ASAP. This is it. I've just been in it, and it definitely has not been easy. And then throwing in a week-long MFR intensive that I did, which unlocked so much more. And I'm just realizing as Crystal's talking, when you said retreat, I'm like, yeah, when I left that, people are like, oh, you had a whole week of receiving massage is what they're thinking. And I'm like, no, I had a whole week of feeling major anxiety and having to face all this stuff. And I left there, and even until now have kind of thought I don't know what I thought of that. But now I realize what a pebble that kicked, because it opened up a lot of stuff that I dealt with the following like 6 months of the year that were where it was like really uncomfortable just dealing with like my own like personal issues and family stuff that I just had to like feel and move through. And luckily I had a great friend like Crystal that really held the space for me and just let me express and never made me feel ashamed of what I was feeling. And I think we're going to like kind of go into that more in another podcast, but just being able to like acknowledge all these things they came up and like, so, acknowledge the shame and the pain and all of it that I think I said many times. Like I felt embarrassed. Like I didn't want to be feeling this. Like this felt silly that these were things that were bothering me or still an issue. But realizing now that, thank goodness I kept at it, acknowledged it, and it didn't happen overnight, but it did all of a sudden, like snap of a fingers. It felt like it was done.
Nice.
But it did. It took a lot of work and a lot of different practices. But I mean, like John Barnes always says, his greatest quote is, "Without awareness, there is no choice." And it just gets to be deeper and deeper and for me, because if you don't even know you're acting from that place, you can't decide what you want to do with it.
Right.
So that acknowledgement piece is like the biggest, but it's scary most of the time. Like you said, when I'm working with people too, and we're maybe, working on the body and they're not feeling, or they're just feeling really stuck in a session, like maybe they have the intention, like, oh, I want to have this big release and feel these big emotions come up. But a lot of times it's because they have a little bit of agenda or something that they think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times I'll be like, you know what, it's okay. Like, let it be what it is. It might not be what you think it is. It's probably what you don't want it to be.
Right.
It's that thing that you don't want to admit.
Yeah.
And it's really, really scary, usually, for people to say out loud. And they don't have to say it out loud, but they have to be honest with themselves. They have to say it out loud to themselves in a way. And acknowledge it. Otherwise, same thing. Those are the people that aren't going to get better. And I can feel the resistance in their body. I've been doing this long enough that I know. And then that's the experience as a practitioner, to just be like, this is too much for them. And it's not from me being a place like, I can help everyone, and so if they don't get it, it's on them. But as an experienced practitioner, I think you just start to hold the space and be like, it's okay. And I don't take it personally anymore if someone doesn't come back, or because they might come back in a year. They might have had a profound experience a week later and they felt good. And it wrapped it up for them. Who knows?
Exactly. And
That's
it's
the fun
like,
part.
and that knowing that, well, it doesn't have to be today. It doesn't have to, like, they don't have to go there today, and there's no judgment on that. Like, as a practitioner, we're not sitting here being like, exactly like you're saying, like, well, and it's their fault, then they didn't, da 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 da. But we're also not sitting there being like, they're bad or wrong or should fix this either. Like, no, it's each individual's journey.
Yeah.
It's your journey, there's no pressure, rush, timeline to do any of this stuff. And I know in a lot of episodes we talk about like the nervous system and everything, but it'll start there too. Like you have to be okay within your nervous system to be ready and willing to trudge this stuff up. And so that's just one of the things where I think people might get a Pollyanna, like, oh, and I'll heal my nervous system. I'll just be in peace all the time, or whatever it is, I'll just figure this out and then I'll just always have magical sex or whatever, who knows? But to feel fine-tuned enough so that you can push against some of those edges and actually do that, because the other big thing you brought up was how much it can be hidden shame. And that's that I don't want anybody to see this. I don't even want to acknowledge it myself. It makes me feel embarrassed. And then that pain factor is such a common one where it's just like, I don't want to feel the pain, so I'm just not going to do it. You know? And cool. Again, it's like no judgment. It's just that's going to be your block then. That's going to be your standstill where that's as far as you can go until you're willing to feel the pain and move past it and move into what's next and what's beyond. It makes me think too of just like shadow work and being able to like move through the shadow and get to the gift or the pearl or the gem or whatever it is that's on the other side of this experience.
But you have to have the experience first.
Yeah.
And sometimes it sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's as I'm thinking there, it's so cool. I mean, it is fun as a practitioner to see people get to the other side. I'm not going to lie. It feels good.
Yeah.
It's so fun. But it's so fun to watch people's journey and just watch them like flower into it. It's just cool. And it's taught me so much like patience and just can't even think of the word, but just to see everyone's own unique journey.
Yeah.
And just to honor it, like, and be okay with it and not have an intention behind it with anyone in my life or in my practice. And just because the moment you let go of that expectation, you just give them so much more freedom, right? It just creates that freedom for them to just blossom.
I love
Because you're not
that.
trying to hold that container. You're just like, whatever, and open to where it goes for them. Because the minute the minute I would maybe try to like have an agenda or I think we need to go down a path, I'm controlling that situation and they're going to shut down subconsciously or physically, and so it's such a practice for me to like be open and not have an agenda and not project. Yeah, and I mean, I think we'll do another episode where we get into more of like how this shows up as a practitioner, because I feel like that is a good conversation. But it's a trip.
Yeah, it is. But I just want to bring home that concept of just it's surrendering. So like when you're the one in it too, you're surrendering to what's going to unfold for you. And so I just loved that piece because it's the surrendering on both ends if it is in a practitioner situation, but then just as the person going through it, even if you're just doing your own work, it's like that surrender. And it's hard. It's like once you experience surrender, you can kind of have a taste of it and feel it, and it's easier to get there.
Yeah.
But if you haven't experienced that before, being very patient with yourself and like what that's like, and just kind of trying it on a little bit, trying just letting go a little bit, you'll eventually get there.
Yeah. And trusting what comes through, because so much of like I think of some of the work we've done, like the last time we ended up having like a one-on-one because I was the only one that showed up in the group that day because everyone was busy, and how I just trusted where it went to, and it felt like a silly experience from when I was like in third grade, right? But I trusted myself to go there, and I trusted to let all the emotions come up and let myself process it, and it was awesome. And it like totally shifted everything. It did shift stuff super quick for me.
Right. And
it was a magical moment. And that's where like the more you can just be vulnerable and acknowledge that stuff, the more you do it, it just becomes like old hat kind of. And then to see other people in our group, in our different groups that we're in together, be able to have those moments, and then we can like hold the space for it. It's cool.
Yeah, it is so cool.
It's cool.
Awesome. So here's your invitation to really dive in. Get ready. Buckle up.
Yeah, it's worth it. If you're in it, keep up.
Yeah, it's worth it. Start acknowledging, tuning in, bringing your awareness to the stuff. letting it flow, letting it move, relaxing into surrender. And we're rooting for you.
Yes. And you don't have to do it alone.
Yes. All right. Enjoy. Mwah.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like more support, hop on the Pleasure Fairy app or find Katie at wellnesswithkatie.com. You can also find us on Instagram at Enlivening Musings if you want to share some takeaways or other requests for future shows. Enjoy.